Hi, welcome to the Pharmacy Lounge podcast, episode 4. Today we're talking about career coaching with Adil Khan. So Adil, you've been a community pharmacist and you work for Boots in the head office. So tell us a bit more about yourself and how you got into career coaching.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I started in community pharmacy. So I did pre-reg with Boots, was a community pharmacist in store for a little bit on relief, became a store manager, and quite early in my career, I realized that a community pharmacy wasn't really for me. So I went and inquired into Boots and got a job in Boots head office doing sort of pharmacy operations. Now, it was a job that I loved doing. But maybe sort of a year or so in, I realized that actually I felt like I wasn't a proper pharmacist. People asked me clinical questions and I didn't really have a clue. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to take the leap of faith and go to hospital pharmacy. So I went and did a junior role in hospital rotations. I took some time out of the NHS to do some private work in private mental health hospitals. I went back into the NHS and did a band 8A role as a advanced clinical pharmacist on the admissions unit. And that led me to my current split of roles. So now I do a couple of days in primary care, a couple of days as a teacher practitioner at the University of Nottingham, and 1 day in a NHS mental health hospital. So I've got quite a split of roles. There. Yeah, quite a split of roles. But actually, it's one of the things that led people to start asking me questions about careers. And that's kind of how career coaching came about. So maybe a year and a half ago, I started getting a lot of requests from people through LinkedIn, through Instagram, ex-colleagues or friends or people I didn't even know, started asking me questions in regards to what's the best way of getting into certain careers, about changing careers. And I found I was spending a lot of time, especially in the evenings and weekends, helping people. And actually what happened is I started to grow the people that I got support for the people, the clients that we were helping. And it grew to quite a number of specialist consultants in each area. So now we've got a pool of pharmacists that, we can call upon for specialist help. And it's something that actually we officially rolled out just a couple of weeks ago on LinkedIn as a page, just because we wanted a central location for the information. So it's a work in progress. We've just started doing it officially. But it's something that naturally came about just because of the varied experience I had and some of the other colleagues that I do work with. And it's something that people are finding beneficial.
Okay. I mean, I think in the current climate, we hear a lot of pharmacists, and this probably hasn't been going on for a while as well, where we're not happy with where we are, so we're trying to jump ship. So, and we have every decade or so, we have this swing between going into locuming and going into management. So we have, and currently in the pandemic, as you know, there's a lot of pharmacists who are sitting at home. We've seen pharmacists that have been unemployed since March, April, since the kind of the early days of the pandemic, when we had a full 3,000 rejoin the register. And that's caused a lot of locums to lose out on work. A lot of companies started closing earlier. A lot of the 100 hours pharmacists have reduced their hours as well. So there's been a surplus of pharmacists now. A lot of people ask, what else can we do? We've got these skills. We were community pharmacy. We've been community pharmacy for a while. We've been locuming in different companies, where a lot of people see as locums as all, they just go around different branches. They don't really know anything. But obviously we have vast experience in working with different companies in different environments, in different teams. We see far more than any manager who's been in one place for, say, 10 to 15 years. So how can some locums in those kind of scenarios, what can they do, or how can they improve their CV in a way to sell themselves better to employers?
I think it's important. I think you touched on a few points already, and I think it's about identifying what your skills are. And as a career coach, that's one of the first things that we do. We identify actually who is the person that we're speaking to. It's as somebody who's done recruitment in companies before, what I find is a lot of people have those skills, a lot of people have those experiences, but they're not very good at expressing them. So we can have an application from somebody who's done locum work for years and has worked in every different type of community pharmacy and outpatients and busy, healthcare centers, but actually they don't mention it. They don't use examples. They don't draw upon experiences. And that's something that actually we find as somebody who's going through an application. If somebody's not telling us, we can't put that down as a mark. We can't put that down as a skill to put towards your application. So one thing is that I'd say, if you're somebody who sat at home thinking, I want to have a career change, start thinking about what you've done rather than looking at what you haven't done and the skills that you don't have. Look at what you do have. We live in a time that actually transferable skills are a huge, huge factor. Not just in healthcare, but in every single kind of workplace. You can draw upon your experiences and your skills, and if you express them in the right way, you hit a lot of the essential skills that are required for different jobs. And in terms of our clients, we have multiple people who are community pharmacists who have done locum work for a little bit or worked in one branch for a little bit. And they come to us and say, actually, I don't have the skills necessary to go for the job that I want to go for. And a large part of that is identifying what they have and sometimes even improving the skills that they have to make them ready for, the next move. So my advice to people at home would be, look at yourself, look at what you've got so far, look at the skills that you've got, look at where you want to go. So the job that you want to get to, identify where the gap is, and that's where something like career coaching can help, is identifying it, help you identify it. And once you've identified that, you're already on the way. It's a big task going from one career to another. But actually with support and guidance, we can break it down to smaller parts, and before you know it, you're there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the keys that we need to kind of reach out and look at what skills we have. A lot of the times when you speak to locum pharmacists, I think, well, I've only been in community pharmacy. Can I go into hospital? I don't have the skills, but your training was the same. Essentially, you went through the same university degree. Mm-hmm. They spent a lot more time in the hospital environment, which tends to be a lot more slower as well than community pharmacy. I mean, they, just like a hospital pharmacy, would find it tricky to get into community in the high-paced, fast-moving environment. It takes a bit of time to get into the hospital environment as well, but I think it's doable. And again, I think that's where a lot of people need help, and there's a gap in the market in that sense as well, in that we can try and help a lot of people that are stuck, for a better word, in community because they feel that they don't have any transferable skills.
Yeah.
But they actually do have a huge amount of transferable skills, whether in industry, where I've seen pharmacists lead massive teams. I used to work for Fresenius Kabi years ago, and some of the head of the department was a pharmacist there, and I used to go and chat with him sometimes and see what he does, and it's amazing what as a pharmacist you can do. I mean, we have business skills. When you come to pharmacy, you're not only using clinical knowledge, you're using a business acumen as well. You're ensuring your products are the cheapest possible so you make a profit. You're ensuring your team are working properly and efficiently. So, you have got a management skill. These are two big skills that are required pretty much in any industry. So I think there is, like, you're right, there is a lot of transferable skills, but we need better information on how you can make that change. And obviously companies like people like yourselves who've done career coaching, you can give them more one-to-one advice based on individual circumstances and what their actual goals are. I mean, the conversation we were having before about people having their unique reasons for moving into different areas. Now, I've met one pharmacist, and she's really into her career. She wants to make it to the top in the corporate world. And, she's done really well. She's got a double degree. She's always trying to learn new things. And I can see she's already quite high up in a large corporation, and I can see her going far. And, she only qualified a few years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, there is a huge scope for pharmacists.
Yeah, I think there's loads of things about this. I mean, we had a meeting in one of my hospital trusts that I work with, and I remember we had a meeting with the chief pharmacist, and he was a very varied, he had varied experience. He had community experience, hospital experience. He did different things, and actually, what we both said was actually what makes a good pharmacist is rounded skills. So actually, being in one particular field is good for certain jobs. But the majority of if you go to any other sector, so you go to accounting or you go to, I'm not too sure about the business kind of side of things, but if you go to then say, I've got somebody who's got varied experience, different fields, or I've got somebody who has been in the same job or the same sector for the last 10 years, somebody is going to pick up and say, actually, we'd much rather have a fresh pair of eyes, somebody who's got different experience and different skills. Businesses now are run like you would a new startup. They're run like they have entrepreneurs who are fully employed because they look at new things. They look at the way that they can grow the business and do different things. And it's the same with healthcare. We want people who come into hospital with different experiences and different ideas. You want somebody who can come in and say, actually, this is not efficient the way you're doing things. I've worked at somewhere else and they're doing things a lot better. And the gap really starts to show when you get to band 8A. So we have a lot of pharmacists who are band 6s within the hospital. Band 7, as a senior pharmacist, I have a little bit of responsibility in terms of management, but not a hell of a lot. But then when you step up to a band 8A level, a lot of jobs require management, so line management, taking on big projects, leading specialty fields. And actually, we find that a lot of the people who have been in the system doing a band 6 and the 7 role, they don't have these experiences. And now you compare that to something like community pharmacy, where pretty much from day one, you have to manage that pharmacy. You qualify and that's it. You are the lead pharmacist in that setting. And it's admirable to say that pharmacists can do that. And it's not taking away from each of the sectors, but I think actually there's so much you can learn from each sector. And that's what people are looking at now. When you go to recruiters and say, actually, what are you looking for in your pharmacist? It's not just people who have done the whole band 6, band 7, getting to band 8 for hospital. Or you look at community pharmacies, the managers, they want people who have got varied experience. And that's where, something that I've talked to a lot of recruiters about is how do we get the best out of our pharmacists? So what can they do before they come to these kind of jobs? And that's, it brings us to the topic that you were talking about. What do we do in a time like this? There's not that many jobs. I mean, there's loads of PCN roles going out at the minute. So if PCN is your thing, massive time right now. If you want to get into PCNs and primary care roles, now is a perfect time to get into it. It's growing, it's getting bigger. My PCN that I work for at the minute is gone from 2 pharmacists and they want a capacity of 6 pharmacists. So already it's growing so much. But
I think, sorry. So I think one thing, and this is to touch upon the PCN role before we go further. One of the issues a lot of the pharmacists have brought up on our discussions was that PCN roles, great in theory. In practice, we have GPs who want to control everything, and on the other hand, the salary that they're offering are atrocious. I mean, we've had people go into it and come straight back out because they just said it's not worth the headache.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what tips would you give to someone who wants to negotiate, a comparable salary for what they do in community, and bring on all the skills and the knowledge and experience that they have? How would someone negotiate a decent salary on that?
It's funny you mentioned that, actually, because one of the most recent queries I had as part of part of Pharmacy Connecting career coaching, I had a message saying that, can we book a session in? I booked a session in, and it was a very strange case. The guy had done his application, had his interview, had got the job. So I was kind of like, so what do you need from us? And it was literally that. It was, I'm at the stage where I've got the job offer and I have no idea in terms of negotiating what I should get. I've come from community pharmacy. I've told them my salary and they've offered me, X. And it was really good, actually. We had a good session about what skills he has, what he can offer, and what those mean in terms of value.
Okay, can we talk about the actual salary? I know it might be sensitive for some. Let's just give a figure. I know we've seen offers of around 35 to 37,000 in in PCN, and we know community pharmacy locums earn at least twice as that in a lot of cases, and you can comfortably earn well over 40 without any of the headache that comes with being an employed pharmacist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What kind of salary should they be expecting? And how can they negotiate a comparable salary to community pharmacy?
So I think it's about identifying. So what we did with the gentleman that came to me, is we identified what level we think he is. So how valuable do you think you are in terms of pharmacist? So we look at, a lot of the PCNs will go off NHS banding. So if you look at the banding right now, band 6 is around just over 30K, band 7 is around 38, and band 8 is around 45 and a half, I think. So actually, if you look at that, there's huge differences in what they're offering. Now, because PCNs are fairly new, what they can essentially do is offer you a band 7 salary for a band 8 job, right? So you could be doing a band 7, a band 7 wage, £38,000, doing what people do in band 8A jobs, and that's where the uncertainty and unfairness comes in. But actually, that's where someone like us can help, right? So that's somewhere like I can do a session with you in terms of what are you expected to do? What's your job profile? Have you spoken to them about what your responsibilities are? And that's when we can compare to band 8A jobs in hospitals. So, when you come to the NHS, band 8A is a very varied role. So it can be in hospitals as a clinical lead. It can be in clinics. So hospital NHS, you can be hired to work in clinics. So very similar to primary care sort of structure. So actually, we can take from the responsibilities required from you, and we can come up with what probably is a good salary for you to negotiate. And how to negotiate that is, again, it's another skill. So that's something that we help you with, and we can almost come up with a way, a strategy to go and speak to the right people in the job that you're going for. But I would say, in terms of numbers, I'd say if you are a pharmacist with no primary care experience, you don't have a diploma, you don't have IP, then a band 7 salary is probably what you're looking at. Some people would offer you a band 6, but actually I think the role that you're doing, unless they've given you a big group of support, a big network of pharmacists to support you, band 6s generally in hospital are your junior pharmacists who can ask any questions at any time, have support from seniors within their area. So actually, I think in terms of primary care, unless they get that structure overnight, right now, band 7 is what you want to be aiming for. If you've got a diploma, or you're willing to work towards your prescribing, or you've got prescribing, minimum is band 8A. So you're sort of 45 and a half.
Okay, so basically, that's kind of the starting ceiling if you've not got the IP, or if you're not prescribing. Okay, fair enough.
Well, I mean, I've got, for example, I'll give you the most recent GP practice or PCN pharmacist that we spoke to. He was negotiating, and he had a diploma. He didn't have prescribing. He had just over 2 years experience as a community pharmacist. But actually, he was a very good community pharmacist. He had experience, and he managed his store. So when you go into these interviews or these negotiations, you have to tell them he line managed 8 people, right? Okay. That is a skill that not many people at 2 years qualified have. So you have to sell that. So actually, PCNs are developing right now, right? We don't actually have a massive structure. You need somebody who can manage this project, and that's who I am. I can come in and say, I can manage your project. I manage 8 people. I've changed the structure of my store. I've benefited the store so much. And for GPs are businesses at the end of the day. And if you can make them money and say, actually, I can manage it, I can do different things and X, Y, and Z to be able to present to you, I think my salary should be this. And I'm pretty sure, if you come in with the right angle, there's no way somebody can turn you down.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is what we need to get across, that it's about selling your skills, and not looking at your community pharmacy work and saying, well, I've only been a locum and I've only worked in different companies. I've not worked in one place for too long, so that's a negative. No, that's actually a positive. I mean, when I used to want to do a pre-reg in it was Lloyd's Pharmacy, and one of the regional managers said to me, what we actually want you to do is go out and locum first before you take a job with us. We want you to experience how different companies work and bring the best practice to us. That for us is a wealth of knowledge that we can't just have. We want to get from someone who has trained with us and not work for anyone else. So being a locum is actually is a very strong positive that we really need to use to our advantage when applying for jobs. And as you highlighted, that there's a lot of ways that we can sell our skills, that what we do every day. And I think this is the key message. If you're going to take away one thing from this whole podcast, it's the fact that even if you're a locum who's never worked in for one single company or never been employed by one, you have a lot of skills, a lot of knowledge, and a wealth of experience across so many different companies. You can then go into one company and say, you know what, I've worked some of the biggest companies in the country, and this is what they've done wrong. I can see where you guys are going wrong, and I can help you put that right. That's my skill. That's what I'm bringing to the table.
That's it. And you know, you look at other sectors. You know, I've got a friend, and I've got a cousin actually who works in quantity surveying. He's a contractor, right? So you look at contractors, and they have a mountain of respect. They are people who are highly, highly sought. There's people who have gone to different places, got different experiences, and come, and they're on big money, and they come and do the job, and then they go to somewhere else. Now, for some reason, it's seen as locuming is almost like the thing to do when you're out of a job. No, it's a very valuable thing to do, and actually, not many people pick that up. And when I tell my cousin that actually similar thing to contracting is kind of what we do is locuming. You know, you get contracts in hospitals that you can do locum for 3 months and more, and same with community. Actually, it's almost seen as a negative slightly, and it's a strange thing actually in pharmacy in general, that locum is seen as something that's not that great. But if you look at the skills that you learn in that time, it's for a recruiter, it's perfect. You've got somebody who's got varied experience, different things. He can pick up. He's a fast learner. He's adaptability is there, leadership is there, confidence is there. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, this is we were in a large network of pre-reg students, and a lot of the times they want to go into the holy grail of community pharmacy, Boots or Lloyd's. They want to sign the contract, and if they don't get a job offer, they're like, oh, you know what, I've not got a job before. What shall I do? I'm like, that's perfect. You don't need anyone. You don't need the biggest company in the country to give you an offer, which is probably lower than what the market rates are anyway. What you want to do is you want to go out there straight into the deep end, and you want to learn exactly how companies work, because you can tell how much a company respects its employees by looking at how they treat their locums.
100%.
Because the locums are seen as like the weakest of the whole bunch, because we don't have any rights. We don't have as much rights as a employed as pharmacists. So companies can treat us like however they want. And a lot of times, if you've seen the recent message from one of the largest multiples about PP, where I'm going with this. But those that treat their locums really well, just like they treat their employed pharmacists, those are the ones I'd want to work for. Because I know if they can treat their locums with respect and they give them all the support, then they must be doing really well with their employed pharmacists. Because
100%.
it's your staff that essentially run the business. You sitting in a comfortable office away from the public, you're not really running much. Yeah, you're giving the big ideas of how the business should be run, but it's actually done by the pharmacists, the people that are at the front line. If they're not treated well, if they're not been given the right tools to do the job, the company won't last very long. You can make up any number you want to make the end of year books look really good, but it eats away into your company, and over the years you'll see how you lose your customer base, how you lose your employer brand. It has a huge impact. So I think this is the advice I give to pretty much all locums. Like, if you're going to work for anyone, work for the ones that treat their locums well.
Yeah, you're right, 100%. And you know what? Another thing I'd say is on that topic is, you know, as pharmacists, you need to know your worth. You know, like you just mentioned, you know, that it doesn't run without you being there. And you know, I've read so many books on self-development as part of the career coaching side of things. A big part of it is self-development and self-love and actually improving the way you are as a person. And actually, one of the biggest things it talks about is you having the confidence. You know, if you're being told that actually, oh no, it's a locum coming in, we don't have our regular pharmacist, you know, we're not going to be as good. Don't let that affect you. You tell them that actually you can do a better job than most of these people. These regular pharmacists are stuck in their same place doing the same thing all the time. Yes, they might be a fantastic pharmacist, but that doesn't mean that you are not, you know? That's actually something that I've learned a lot from these self-development books. Actually,
I think one of the things when I speak to the employed pharmacists, they're like, "Oh, you know, we run a tight ship. We make sure all the work is done." But every time I go to a pharmacy where there is an employed pharmacist, there's always, "Oh, the locum's in today, so that's the day we do all our that's the day we don't have any
all the work."
Exactly. But we have, you know, you have to do all of this because the manager does it. Yeah, but the manager does it with all the support and everything else, and they don't have all the extra work that they leave for the locum.
Exactly.
So you know, this is the kind of thing that we need to get. You know, we need to get our mind out of this kind of thing, that there isn't a rivalry in this. If you're an employed pharmacist, you have a lot to learn from locums who work for different companies. We're not rivals in this. We can complement each other by working together. And this is the mindset that I think we need to get into, that we need to work together as a profession. And if you want to switch careers, there is a huge amount of opportunities out there, from whether it's in the tech sector. I mean, we are based in the Landing, which is one of Europe's leading tech incubators. And after we moved in, we've seen a number of pharmacy-related companies moving. We now have a online pharmacy in there as well. We have a locum agency. We know some of the biggest companies in the pharmacy in the country also work closely within the Landing with the tech company. So there's a huge growing sector within the health tech industry where pharmacists could really put their skills into this and develop a whole new generation of companies that deal with health inequalities and deal with gaps in the market that the other bigger players don't really see or don't have the time to deal with. So I think there's a lot to take away from this whole podcast, in that, you know, the message is that you can do a lot with what you have, the skills that you have as a pharmacist, whether in the community, whether you're in hospital, whether you're in GP surgery and want to do, you know, you're bored of everything and you want to do something else. There's a lot of options. And, you know, I want to thank you for coming on to the podcast today and giving us your insight and your going through some of your experience with us. I think this kind of knowledge is invaluable to pharmacists out there, to locums, to managers, to everyone else that's interested in moving into a different sector. So last of all, I want to try to wrap this up quickly today.
Of course.
Any last word of advice that you would give to pharmacists out there?
I think the first thing is contact me and I'll help you.
Sure. We'll leave a link to your website. So if anyone will get in touch, feel free. And just for the record, where this isn't a sponsored or paid for podcast, this is just I reached out to Dylan. We had a discussion about career coaching and how we can support community pharmacists. So so this is it. Sorry. You were saying your last
So I think that, you know, I thought about how can I give some information without giving too many secrets away, and I think one of the biggest things a lot of people don't realize is how recruitment actually works. So when you're filling out your application, most NHS jobs and most jobs actually out there in healthcare have a job description and a person specification. And what I found when I was reading through applications for one of my previous roles was I was being told loads of information. You know, somebody went on a year-long traveling and they helped save some baby turtles and it was fantastic. And they're great stories to read. But actually, did you look at the essential criteria? Did you look at the desirable criteria? If you've got them, did you tell me about it? You know, I give you an example. There was one desirable criteria for the last post I recruited for. And it said, are you an RPS member? right? Simple. Now, the person didn't tell me if they were or not. And if they were, they could have just said, I am an RPS member, right? That would have got them a point. And there's so many things like that that are just very simple things that if you read the job description and the person's specification, you can tailor your application to what they need, right? And because the way it works is, once we read the application, we mark it. And once we've marked it, we screen it, right? That's how you get your interviews. Once you've got your interview, again, it's a marking scheme. So if we ask you a question and it's based on, name me a time that you led a team. Tell me about a time you led a team. Tell me about the skills you use, the experiences you can draw upon. If you tell me about you led a team, but actually you don't tell me about the experience you had, you just tell me about how to generically lead a team, you're not really going to get the full mark for it. Yeah. And I think that's probably the biggest tip for me would be just look at the job that you're applying for. Don't send generic applications in. Look at the job you're applying for. Look at the job spec, the person spec, and tailor your application to that.
Okay. I think that's a lot of good tips there. And again, thank you for coming in today for the
thanks for having
podcast. And thanks for all the information. So, guys, this is another fourth episode of the Pharmacy Lounge podcast. On today's topic was career tips and career coaching. If you have any questions, do drop us a line, send us a message on Telegram, or leave a comment on the on YouTube. If you thought this video podcast was bad, let us know why. If you have any ideas for next any topics that you want us to cover, again, leave us a message and we'll try and do a video podcast on that as well. So see you next time. Bye.